It's time for our monthly injury roundup. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. If you're new here, once a month on this channel, we go through every single player on the IL who has made any sort of progression towards coming back to Major League Baseball. We talk about where they're at in their recovery, how long it could take for them to get back to the Red Sox, and of course, what their impact on the 2024 team could look like once they come back. And I figured today would be the perfect day to do this because we got some really interesting injury updates over the last couple of days. So that's exactly what we are going to do in today's video. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. I think we got to start with the big dog here, Triston Casas, because in my opinion, this is where we got the most pertinent update in terms of impact on this team. Obviously, Triston has not been in a major league game since April 20th. He really hasn't played any baseball since April 20th. That is until July 30th, just a few days ago, when he started his rehab assignment with the Worcester Red Sox, and it was a bit of a weird ramp up for Triston Casas. Coming out of the All-Star break, Alex Cora essentially said, yeah, Triston's still pretty far ways away, and then basically 24 hours later, that entirely flipped on its head, and Triston Casas was ramping up quickly, obviously starting that rehab assignment just a couple of days ago. So the question now becomes, when can Triston Casas rejoin the Boston Red Sox? And to be honest with you, I don't know if Casas or the Red Sox have an answer to that, because right now it's about pain management. Triston Casas told reporters that there is still some lingering pain in his rib, especially when he's swinging, not really any pain anywhere else, so he could do every other activity, but there is still some pain when he swings. I think the Red Sox and Casas are right now about being careful. They want to slowly ramp him up, slowly get him to a point where he can ideally manage that pain enough where it's not really a big hindrance on his performance at the big league level, which is probably going to take a couple of weeks here down in AAA. But the big thing with Casas is that he's ready to go. If it was up to him, I think he'd be back on this Red Sox team already. I'm not too worried about his timing or his ability to make contact. He's a freak of nature, isn't he? Spent basically his entire rehab imagining himself in the box. I think he'll be all right timing wise, and I think he'll be all right mechanic wise. I think what this boils down to at this point is his ability to manage pain. The other thing here is I just think the Red Sox want him to get used to the workload that is playing every single day, right? Obviously, there's a difference between managing pain when you're taking 20 hacks in the batting cage below Fenway and trying to get into 4 or 5 at-bats 5 days a week, 6 days a week, whatever, at the major league level, while also having to play defense too. So I think there are a couple of things here that the Red Sox want Triston Casas to really iron out before he gets back, but honestly, I don't know if it's going to take all that long. Reports are saying that there's a possibility that he's up at the Red Sox level within the next week or so. I don't know what the eventual timing is for that, but I do think we're on the verge of getting Triston Casas back, which is a really, really great sign. The second person I wanted to give an update on is Vaughn Grissom, who is a really interesting case right now. He's currently been in AAA with the Worcester Red Sox, rehabbing from that hamstring for about the last 10 days or so. Now, what's interesting about this Vaughn Grissom thing is that they have until August 8th to make a decision. The decision I'm talking about is whether or not they want Vaughn Grissom back up at the major league level this year or to finish out his season in AAA to really get himself right for 2025. This has been sort of a topic of conversation over the last few weeks, and I think the biggest reason for that is because the Red Sox went into the trade deadline not expecting but wanting a middle infield guy, a short-term middle infield rental, to be able to take over that second base position and allow Vaughn Grissom to really get himself right in AAA. We talked about it before, and I know a lot of people have already given up on Vaughn Grissom after just 20 games, which is kind of insane considering half the players on this team sucked for 20 games when they came to the major league level, but that's besides the point. We don't really know if we're going to see Vaughn Grissom in a major league uniform at all this year. However, there is one caveat to that, and that is that second base right now has been the worst offensive position for the Boston Red Sox by almost 200 OPS points or 50 OPS plus points this entire season. It has been basically a black hole of production over there. I'm curious as to whether or not the Red Sox take that into consideration. When we get to August 8th, if that's part of the decision. It has to be, in my opinion. I also think a big part of this decision is what Nick Sogard can give the Red Sox at the major league level. If he can come up here and be productive at the plate and sort of almost take over that second base role for a majority of the rest of the season, I think there is a bigger possibility that we don't see Vaughn Grissom until next year. But if Nick Sogard isn't working out all that much, David Hamilton has been basically on a downward spiral since the beginning of July. If he can't figure himself out either, I do think there is a legitimate possibility that we see Vaughn Grissom. Right now, I think the Red Sox are just being careful. Last time Vaughn Grissom rehabbed from an injury, really couldn't get his timing down. He didn't get a ton of time in AAA on a rehab assignment. When he got back up to the major league level, he was still dealing with that injury, and that's why he ended up injuring his other hamstring, is because he was overusing that one to compensate for his injured other hamstring. Obviously, you had that sickness as well. We just simply have not seen the true Vaughn Grissom yet at the big league level, and I think the Red Sox are hoping that he can get there before August 8th, but the Red Sox really have some interesting decisions coming up with what they do with Vaughn Grissom. In terms of position players, those are really the two big names to pay attention to over the next few weeks, but there's a lot more injuries when it comes to the pitching staff, so let's break those down as well. However, before we get into those, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it's the best way you can let me know you're enjoying the content we are putting out. Thank you all very much for taking a second and doing so. Let's break down some pitching injuries. Okay, so I think the big one when it comes to pitching injuries is Liam Hendriks, who is actually getting really close to a rehab assignment. Over the last month or so, he's been throwing 2 bullpens a week, and the important part about those is that he's doing it with his full arsenal. When you start, it's basically just fastball, fastball, fastball. Now he's moving on to including his off-speed pitches, which is a really great sign that his elbow is getting back to being fully healthy. Now, there is a very important piece of this puzzle getting put together basically over the next couple of days, because while the Red Sox are in Arlington, Texas, Liam Hendriks is going to travel with the team and visit the doctor down in Texas that did his Tommy John surgery, and if all goes well and he gets the okay, well, he could be on a rehab assignment as early as next week, so we could be seeing the return of Liam Hendriks. I would assume that in terms of a rehab assignment, it'll be a bit of a lengthy one. They want to make sure that not only is his mechanics and timing and health right, but they also want to make sure that his mentality coming into late games and being able to get outs is right as well before they bring him up to the major league level. So we still have a little bit of time here with Liam Hendriks, but I would say best case scenario here, you're looking at maybe 2 or 3 weeks until he's back with this team. Again, we'll probably know more after this weekend, but obviously this is really great news for a bullpen that could use some reinforcements right now. And speaking of using some reinforcements, Chris Martin is also on the verge of his rehab assignment as well. Earlier this week, Chris Martin threw his first bullpen. It was 25 pitches. Now, he does have one more bullpen to get through, which should be happening either today, tomorrow, or Sunday. And if all goes well there, he's definitely going to be starting a rehab assignment as early as Monday. At some point in the Kansas City Royals series, Chris Martin should be rehabbing with the Worcester Red Sox. And this is really great news because I honestly don't think it'll be a super long rehab stint for Chris Martin down in AAA. My guess is he'll probably get into 2 or 3 games over the span of a week or so, and then he'll come back to the major league level, mostly because it's basically just about ensuring that your mechanics are all set with Chris Martin, because obviously he still has that mentality set and ready to go, mainly just a physical thing with Chris. I don't expect him to be down there too long, which means there is a legitimate possibility that by the time the Red Sox come home and are facing the Texas Rangers at Fenway, Chris Martin is in that bullpen. Again, obviously massive news for this Red Sox bullpen. Really cool to see Chris Martin making his way back. And the last guy in terms of bullpen usage that I want to talk about is Justin Slayton. Now, Justin Slayton is a bit further away from a rehab assignment than the other 2 players we mentioned. That is mainly due to the fact that he was simply injured later than both of these guys, but also due to the fact that he has been sick over the last couple of weeks, which has really put a halt to his rehabbing ability. He is throwing from 75 feet, which is basically the first step in getting yourself back. He still has to do a couple of different things. I would assume throwing off the mound comes next, and then a bullpen session, and then another bullpen session, and then he can begin his rehab assignment. So you're probably looking at, I would say, a minimum of 2-ish weeks until we start getting some real momentum going with Justin Slayton. That probably means we aren't going to see him, I would guess, until later this month. Best case scenario, probably more realistically, not until September. So you've got a pretty long ways away for Justin Slayton. I think this is a big reason why the Red Sox were real aggressive at the deadline in getting a couple of relievers. Not going to see Justin Slayton for a little bit, but the other two guys we could see at some point this month, maybe as soon as 2 weeks from now, and that is a really good sign. Now, there are two sort of miscellaneous injury updates I want to give you guys, one of them being on Trevor Story, specifically in the Colorado series. Mentioned he has now a goal of coming back and joining this Red Sox team if they were to make a postseason. Now, personally, I don't think this is super realistic, but there are some signs that he is getting back to fully healthy. He is resuming baseball activities again. He's no longer rehabbing a surgery. He's rehabbing a baseball injury. He's taking grounders again, and he told media that he's more than halfway through his rehab, according to his medical professional. So I guess there is a chance we see Trevor Story at some point this season. I wouldn't exactly start taking bets on it. I think the Red Sox specifically are going to be pretty conservative when it comes to when he comes back, mostly because by the time he is ready to go, there's not going to be really anyone to rehab with unless you want to put him on the Worcester Red Sox playoff team or anything like that. I don't even know if they're going to make the playoffs, just sort of the only way that you're going to be able to fit him in here. So if he's not going to be able to rehab with a minor league team, I don't know if they're going to want to throw him into a playoff atmosphere right away. The other one I wanted to mention is the Red Sox number one prospect, Marcelo Meyer, is on the IL. He was placed on the 7-day IL with some hip irritation. The good news here is that it probably will just be 7 days. From everything we are seeing, it looks like the Red Sox and Marcelo are just being real cautious here. I think a big part of that is because he tried to play through an injury last year and he ended up completely ruining his season. I would guess this year, anytime he's been sore, anytime he's been basically just bumps and bruises from the regular wear and tear of a baseball season, the Red Sox have been like, all right, let's shut you down for a couple of days. Let's make sure this doesn't get into anything bigger. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing here. So really not that big of a deal, but it does kind of suck because it's going to delay his promotion to AAA baseball a little bit, which obviously for fans isn't super fun, but it is good news that Marcelo Meyer really isn't going to be out for a very long time, and it's mostly just a precautionary thing. So we'll keep an eye on that, but again, not expecting anything massive. So those are the injury updates on at least the most relevant players in the Red Sox system. There are a couple of guys, obviously, who haven't been making a ton of progress, like Lucas Giolito and Garrett Whitlock, and there is one guy who could end up on the Red Sox IL by the time you're watching this, and that is Kenley Jansen, who tweaked his back in the last game of the Mariners series here, so that may be something to pay attention to as well, but we just don't have enough information on any of those guys to make a legitimate segment out of it. But outside of that, I think this is, for the most part, really positive news, right? You're starting to get some really big names getting their way back to Major League Baseball, and that's going to be probably the key to whether or not the Red Sox can make a push for a postseason in the second half of this year. It's also going to create a ton of questions. I think over the next few weeks, we're going to see a whole bunch of different scenarios take place, like who are the Red Sox going to option or DFA when you get guys back like Triston Casas, Liam Hendriks, or Chris Martin? And then on top of that, what are you going to do with the youngest player on your team? Are you going to bring him back up to Major League Baseball, or are you going to let him truly get himself right in AAA? And finally, what are you going to do with your top prospect? Does this injury delay his promotion to AAA until next season, or are you still trying to get him up this season? There are a lot of questions and not a lot of answers right now, but there are going to be answers very, very soon. However, until we get those, let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think? Who do you think is the most impactful player coming back from injury? Who do you think is the biggest one to watch? What are your thoughts overall on where the Red Sox are at injury-wise? Let me know all your thoughts on the latest Red Sox injury roundup in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Again, it helps these videos out a ton. It's the best way you can let me know you're enjoying the content we are putting out. Don't forget, if you want to listen to these episodes instead of watch, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you all in the red seats.